Hello, this is Ian Bishop, and welcome back to my game journal for week 6. And today I will be covering the story conflict in regards to the conflict of The Last of Us Part 1, which is a great game with a looming twist. What is the conflict? The conflict in The Last of Us resides in a post-apocalyptic world. Those who are like zombie-like, who are over-aggressive and aggro humans who have been infected and have been stripped away from their humanity from a viral outbreak are referred to as the infected. Joel, the main character that the player plays as, is a character who is a father to a daughter named Sarah. And at the beginning of the outbreak, tragically, Sarah passes away. When Sarah dies in the midst of the chaos, Joel becomes distrustful. When Joel is later on tasked to protect Ellie, a girl similar to his own daughter, in order to retrieve and reobtain his weapons and his arsenal, he is determined to protect Ellie at all costs. The main conflict of the story begins with the post-apocalyptic world's harsh conditions, but evolves into something more later on. What is the character's conflict? Joel's conflict throughout the story is balancing his own values with that is deemed righteous from society. When Joel builds a connection and a close relationship to Ellie, after bonding with her and being saved by her, Joel feels indebted to protect her even more. And she begins to remind Joel of his own daughter Sarah. That is why when Ellie agrees to be the product of the cure, considering she is immune to the infection, and she sacrifices herself willingly for the cause, Joel is still reluctant to accept the conditions and agree to the terms. That is why when Ellie is put under and is in the hospital ready to be operated on for the cure at the sacrifice and cost of her own life, Joel does not agree to do so, as he deems Ellie to be that of like a daughter to him, and she is the last dear thing left that Joel has in his life. That is why, despite Ellie's willingness to sacrifice herself for the greater good, Joel is still not willing to accept it. Despite the needs of humanity and despite the chance to find a cure, Joel makes the selfish and personal decision to break out Ellie and eliminate all chances of finding a cure. Additionally, Joel lies to Ellie and tells her that they found others with the cure and that she is no longer needed to be sacrificed. Was the right choice made? Many ponder the question, did Joel make the right choice when choosing to save Ellie over saving humanity? In the perspective of Joel, I believe Joel made the right decision, as in his own life, living his own livelihood, living a life without Ellie would transform Joel into an empty, soulless shell of his former self, one that lacks the substance that Ellie provided in his life, just like his daughter Sarah once did. Having someone who's dear to him and like a daughter to him means everything to Joel. Despite the potential to build close bonds and connections in a post-apocalyptic world, losing Ellie would have been the last straw, and making new bonds and new connections would not have been the same. This is why, despite the selfish decision that Joel made, it's hard to blame him for the choice he made at the end of the day. However, even though, in Joel's perspective, living without Ellie would be an impossible choice to make, and would not be practical for him to live on after that. And it would be good. He'd be better off being dead than being alive in a post-apocalyptic world with all that he's lost. I still believe that the right decision would have been to sacrifice Ellie and sacrifice his soul for the greater good of humanity. It would have been a hard choice, and one that is impossible to ask a man to make. However, I believe that the sacrifice was a necessity, and that a world without Ellie and without Joel would have still maintained and stayed afloat in a post-apocalyptic world. The Last of Us Part 1 begins with the conflict stemming from the world and the harsh conditions of the world itself, and evolves into the rising action, one that builds a close connection and bond with Ellie, and beginning to weigh her over other things that were previously important to Joel. And at the end of the story, with the climax resulting in Joel making the hard decision to put himself before humanity. The Last of Us Part 1 is a story full of conflict, and balances and questions the hard choices of individualism and selflessness, with morality being a common theme and a symbolic presence throughout the story. Thank you. That is my game journal for week number 6 of A Story Conflict in regards to the conflict of The Last of Us Part 1. Thank you.